What's up? What's up? It's Greg here, Fisherman's Headquarters, checking in. See how you guys are doing. See how it's going. Hopefully you guys are catching fish and staying super fishy. Basically wanted to check in, say hello. It's been a while since I was on. Things have been pretty busy. Fishing's been pretty good. Shop's been jamming. Been running a bunch of trips, a bunch of charters, catching a bunch of fish. So hopefully you've all been doing the same. Getting some work done, getting some fishing in. Get a little family time too. So basically wanted to check in, just see how things are going, see if you guys have any questions, see what's going on. If you have any questions about the Long Beach Island fishing area. I did not post a recent report on fishing LBI. I think it was a couple days ago was the last report I posted. But if you guys want to jump on there and check it out, fishinglbi.com, there are some reports up there that are somewhat recent. I'll try my best to either tonight or tomorrow have a new report update. Just to kind of give a little quick rundown, if you're looking for a fish report, if you're looking for what's going on, I'll kind of start more close in and then go further away. The bay has fish. There's fluke, kind of the main primary species. Also, there are some striped bass on the sedges and some on the flats. There's definitely an abundance of smaller bluefish in the bay and some medium-sized ones as well. Blowfish seem to be a little bit kind of on the decline, a little bit slower this past week than it was, say, weeks ago. That being said, we'd maybe take a look at the inlet. There's definitely some fluke, definitely some bluefish, definitely some striped bass in the inlet. As far as the LBI beachfront, fluke fishing is very strong. There's been some very nice fish caught recently. One of those anglers, Sloan Endick, a local female angler, checked in a really nice fish the other day, a 4-pound fluke off the beach. I believe today is her birthday or yesterday's birthday, so happy birthday. She also got a nice fish today. It was really nice fish. I know Jared Grady, new employee at the shop. He had a 20-incher today, and I know Sloan's was definitely bigger than that one because they had them side by side in a photograph. Other than that, striped bass fishing off the surf is definitely still going on. I'm not going to say it's kicked into high gear like it was. I think that's a little bit on a decline as well. That's naturally, to be expected here, transitioning to more of the middle of June. We do have striped bass on the beaches of LBI right into the second moon in June. I want to guess that that's around the 20th or 21st. We'll have a new moon in June, so we should have good striped bass fishing until then. But I think the biggest and best fishing for the springtime on LBI has somewhat occurred. Maybe it's not totally passed. But definitely the past week was phenomenal for myself, and I know for a number of other anglers as well. Anybody who's stayed up to date on what's been going on in LBI, there's definitely been some really, really good fish off the surf. I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say, obviously this is you can argue with me all you want, but I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say this is probably the best striped bass fishing run that Long Beach Island has seen, the beaches of LBI have seen in possibly 10 years. There's some years where it's good, there's some years where it's slow, and there's some years that it's great. And I would have to say this year was definitely a great one. I'm not going to say there was blitzing fish on bunker pods like there was, say, 10 years ago. But there was a number of anglers that caught fish on a regular basis. An abundance of smaller fish, abundance of medium-sized fish, and also an abundance of some big fish. So if you haven't taken part of that and you want to get into a little surf fishing, definitely head down to the beach. We can help you get geared up with fresh bait. New tackle, anything like that. If you already got bait and tackle, you just want to get pointed in the right direction, we can help with that as well. So I wanted to kind of touch on a couple things, as I crept from the bay to the inlet to the beach, more in the ocean and kind of midshore, offshore. There are tuna and lots of them very close in. Some reports as close as 7 miles. There's an abundance of fish from the 15 to kind of 50-mile range out of Barnegat Inlet. These fish would be bluefin tuna, and they're anywhere in the size range of, say, 20 to 30 pounders up to 100-plus pounders as well. Some of the areas that have been somewhat hot, heard some fish as close in as the Barnegat Ridge. Some guys that were sea bassing kind of in that general area, say 12, 15, 17 miles offshore, stumbled into some bluefin. Also fish out at the Reeser, Triple Rex, Chicken Canyon, up the 30, 40 fathom line, Princess, Glory Hole. Definitely a number of areas that have fish. So if you guys are looking to get out, we've got a little bit of a blow coming here, but we should have some better weather ahead. When it does settle down, get out there and enjoy. If you need help gearing up, stop in Fisherman's Headquarters. We'd love to help you out. We've got a bunch of chatter products in stock, so if you're looking for some spreader bars, looking for some side trackers, Joe Shoots just got a delivery in today. Who Magic, so if you're looking for those weighted kind of bullet parachute style trolling lures, we've got them. As far as ballyhoo, we're loaded up. We've got a delivery, I'd say about 2 weeks ago. Got some premium baits in from Baitmaster. Our entire freezer stocked up, solid. If you want some baits, we got some premium ones. So if you're getting ready to go fish, stop by Fisherman's Headquarters. Love to help you out. If you need help, reach out with a message, phone call, whatever works for you. Just to give you guys a little update while I'm scrolling through these messages. We are open. We got the okay from our mayor and Board of Health. Memorial Day weekend. So all that stuff going on with the governor. My local area here on Long Beach Island, local authorities said, do what you guys want. If you guys are comfortable with it, roll with it, and that's kind of what we did. So anybody who's wondering what's going on here at the shop, we're open. We ask that you wear a mask. We ask that if you've been in touch with someone that's kind of been squirrely or sick, keep your distance, stay away. Anybody's not feeling good, obviously respect others and stay away as well. But yeah, if you want to come in the shop, you've been feeling good, you want to get geared up and go fishing, stop by Fisherman's Headquarters. We can help you out. For those that don't feel comfortable in a close proximity retail business, that's totally fine, totally understandable. Call us up. We're still doing curbside. We're cranking out orders. I think today the boys at the shop cranked out like 105 orders, which is definitely an epic record number, roasting orders out of here. So thank you for all the business. Thank you for everyone that reached out and submitted orders and need stuff. We're happy to see you guys are fishing. Happy to see we can supply you guys as well. So Anthony Thomas says, 1 to 10, how good is Shimano Sustain? Personally, I don't think they're that great. I'm not the biggest Shimano fan. I don't like to bash any brands. Penn, Daiwa, Shimano, they all make great stuff. Okuma's definitely not on that list. But I'm not the biggest fan of Shimano. I had issues with gears in the past. Just never kind of went back to them. Never could gain that confidence again. So I'm not a fan of Shimano. I would say Sustain is definitely one of their top line reels. If you're looking for a lightweight inshore reel, I'd put it at the 7 or 8 range in terms of its price and quality and durability and such like that. I think you could find a much more durable reel at a better price point, but it might not be as, say, tricked out or as tuned up in performance as that one would be. Definitely the Stratic is a great priced reel. Another reel I'm not a big fan of, but a number of the guys at the shop love them. If you want to talk about those, definitely send a message. The other guys at the shop would love to talk to you about them. Personally, I fish Penn reels. Some people might laugh and say, Penn's a joke, but in my opinion, they're great. Somehow I got hooked up field testing for them. Major fan of Penn. They're super, super easy to fix. I feel that all reels break. Why not get a reel that if it breaks, you can fix it on your own and you can easily find parts. Something that you cannot find in some other reels. Daiwa BG, great reel, but best of luck fixing it if you don't know what you're doing. Same thing with the Stratic. Good luck getting parts. So I'll just keep that short and sweet. Thanks to Super646, best shop ever. Appreciate it. Like the love there. If you need anything, let me know. I'd love to help you out if you can. I know there's a couple other questions here. They're kind of far back. Pooch says, haircut. Yeah, man. Got my hair chopped today, but maybe the beard's next. We'll see. I'm not sure if any other questions came here. I just saw a bunch of stuff, so thanks for joining us here. Super Basic says, can't catch shit. That's a problem, dude. What are you doing? Where are you fishing? What's the issue? I'd love to hear, share, let me know. Maybe I can help you out, point you in the right direction, because I have, I don't want to sound cocky or anything. I think I got about 12 or 14 trips. Haven't had one skunk yet this year. So what I do at Fish Head Charters is I book trips. If you come along and we don't catch anything, it's half off your next trip. This year I've not had to give out one half off voucher, so pretty stoked on that. Some years are full of slow fishing, some years are not. This year we've been into some really, really good striped bass, some really good bluefish action. More recently here, I've kind of stayed quiet, didn't really post any photos of it, but had some really nice fish. Definitely within the last 7 to 10 days. Right around that, we'll say kind of full moon, the transition into the full moon and kind of that full moon period, had some really good fishing, fishing live baits, live bunker, live spot, fishing bucktails, fishing plugs. Definitely had a lot of good fishing, had a lot of good fun. So anybody who joined on those trips, thank you for jumping in. Anybody who didn't, sorry to hear that. Hopefully you're catching fish. I know I definitely took a couple people out that were somewhat new to the area that were vacationing. I know I showed them around, showed them a good time. Just went clamming yesterday. We had a bunch of clams, a cooler full in, I want to say it was an hour and a half. It was definitely really good clamming, really good fun. Ryan Matthews, Ridge, ? Yes. There's been some bluefin at the Ridge. There's been some big albacore at the Ridge. If you want to get into some of the best fishing, you want to push a little further off. But definitely there's bluefin out there. As far as what's going to be in store once this blow comes through, got a good blow here. Obviously today, Wednesday, that wind cranked up midday. Kind of got a little gnarly. I know some people that were out that kind of got their chins beat in. I had a morning trip, got a bunch of good fishing in, and we were back to the dock at like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So it was beautiful all morning for me. But that wind will be blowing tomorrow. It's blowing all night. And definitely going to see a little upwelling event, I think. Not a major one, but definitely a small one. As far as talking about upwelling, that was discussed on one of these Instagram lives maybe a month or so back. If you didn't catch that, it's definitely on our YouTube page. Fisherman's Headquarters on YouTube. You can see the archives. There's one I talk about time, tide, and I think that one there had some talk about upwelling and what it does, what a south wind does to the Long Beach Island area in terms of the water clarity, water temperature, what it does to a bite, kind of what it does in terms of turning a bite off when the water gets cold. Fish kind of get a little more slow, a little more lethargic. So if you want to know a little bit about that, that's kind of what I'm expecting here. I have a trip coming up on Friday. I'm kind of at the point right now where I'm sort of in the seesaw. Do I want to push it back to maybe Saturday? Do I want to just say, hey, go and fish Friday? I'm not really sure yet. I'm going to kind of see what the temperatures look like tomorrow. That being said, talking about temperatures, I'm seeing all over the place. Different surfing reports, different fishing reports, different tackle shops, different fishing groups on Facebook. I'm seeing all these 60-some degree water temperatures for the Long Beach Island surf. Personally, I've been out just about every single day. I'm in a boat. I'm right along the beach. And sometimes I'm fishing 7 foot of water. Today I was netting bunker in like about 10 foot of water. The surf is not in the 60s. It never was. It never will be for a while after this blow. I saw somebody posting that it was 65 degrees. Somewhere said it was 62. I think they're just pulling numbers off of what they see on the news. And newsflash, what's elsewhere, say north and south of us, isn't what LBI is. LBI has a distinct characteristic, being we have 2 inlets, Beach Haven Inlet and Barnegat Ridge Inlet. Also, we face a little bit southerly, much more susceptible to that south wind, that upwell. The beaches of, say, Atlantic City and the beaches of, let's say, Seaside are sometimes drastically different from Long Beach Island. And I can tell you, in my boat, my sounder and my temperature gauge is pretty accurate. At least I believe they're accurate. Never had anything over 60 degrees with the incoming tide or along the beach. Outgoing tide, totally different story. Water is super warm in the bay. Inlet's been super warm in the outgoing tide. Today I had 68 degree water on the bottom of the outgoing. I'm sure it's much warmer as you creep away from that inlet and get more into the back bays, behind Island Beach State Park in the deep Barnegat Bay, or if you come back to the mid-island, say down the street from the shop where the bridges are, in the deep back bay, I'm sure you got water in the 70s. I'm just making that number up. I don't know for sure. Just taking a stab at it because I haven't actually been there in my boat with a temperature gauge to get that reading. But to give you a scenario, off the beach right now, today, water was 55 degrees, 54 degrees along Barnegat Light. To be exact, 30th Street, the transition where Barnegat Light transitions into Loveladies, it was 54, 55 degrees today. There's bunker there, there's whales there, and they've been there. If you guys want to go hit the beach and chunk some bunker, now's a good time. Water in the mid 50s is legit. I really like 55 to 58 degree water for big fish. This year that bait's been somewhat enclosed. There hasn't been a bunch of it, and I think that's actually helping the whole situation. I feel that a lot of times there's lots and lots of bait kind of potted up, that those fish really don't need to do too much hunting. They kind of just stumble across these bunker pods, kind of get feisty for a little bit of time in the mornings, get active, slap around on top, slurp a few down, and then they kind of head off to the deep, never be seen again. Right now, there's not a ton of bait like that. These fish kind of get active for a little bit. They have to kind of hunt. They have to kind of expel some energy, and then they don't really get it all in one shot. They kind of roam around a little bit more, and I've been finding that it's not just that morning bite like it has been in past years. You kind of get a whole morning bite, sometimes even in the afternoon. The other day, I had a 42-pound fish. I think it was like 10, 11 o'clock. It was almost midday. For me, that's somewhat, I think, uncommon. I see a lot of those bigger fish more so in the early mornings. One of the first boats out in the bunker pods, at least I try to be one of the first boats, so I can kind of find them, get on them first, and I don't get run over by 100 boats. I try to catch a fish or two before I do get run over. But yeah, let me get back to some of these questions. So somebody said here, Anthony Thomas, what about a Tsunami Shield? I think Tsunami Shield's a great reel. It's definitely not the most durable reel, but if you're looking for an inexpensive reel with somewhat of a legitimate quality, we'll call it middle of the road, has some seals, Shield's not a bad idea. Personally, I think you should invest in the SSVi. Penn SSVi is a phenomenal reel. You can beat the balls off it. You can get it wet, salty, sandy. You don't have to take care of it, and it's going to keep ticking. I'm not going to say it's going to keep ticking for a long, long time, but you can definitely get a number of years out of an SSV. And when something does break, they're very easy to fix, very easy to get parts for. We've probably got just about every part for the reel. If it's a handle, a bail, if you want to upgrade the, replace the drags, if you want to upgrade the gears, you can always put in the machine gears, the CNC machine gears that you'd find in the Slammer series. You can upgrade the SSV with those. We have those upgrade kits. You change out the main gear and the pinion gear. I want to say it's about $40, maybe $50, and you can jump in and put that Slammer gear set in the SSV, and it's a total different animal. I wouldn't do that off the get-go. I'd get the reel, I'd fish it, beat it up, chew those gears out, put some use to those, and then upgrade if you want to. Scrolling through, what's biting in the surf? So Patrick, fluker in the surf, bluefish in the surf, striped bass are in the surf. And there's kingfish in the surf. Kingfish showed up, I'd say, week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And they've been somewhat steady. If you got live bloodworms, that's going to be the best bait for them. Personally, right now, this is kind of like the prime time for striped bass and blues. As that transitions out, I would then switch gears into kingfishing. Personal opinion, I just wouldn't grab a lighter surf rod and bloodworms and set up and stake in and bait and wait for kingfish right now. I mean, there's quality striped bass roaming these beaches, working these bunker pods. I just think you're wasting your time looking for kingfish. If you want to look for a panfish to eat, I get it. Cool story. You want to catch some kingfish? That's your thing. Great. But if you're asking me what's biting the surf and what you should go for, chunk bunker, catch striped bass. Chunk bunker, catch bluefish. Go up there, fish a lure, catch a striped bass or a bluefish. Those lures might be an SB minnow, a bucktail, throw a popper, a bunch of different stuff, some metal lips. You want to get a heavier rod and throw some bigger pencil poppers and work a pencil popper across the top, on the back side of the bar on those bunker pods. Great idea. If you're hitting the beach, do not go up there without having a snag hook. Those bunker pods are in tight. You can easily snag them. You might only have to wade up to your knees or your thighs, and you can get into definitely a good bunker pod if you poke around and look around a little bit. Where I live by the Acme here, central kind of LBI, there's been bunker pods up here almost every single day for a week and a half. I know there's been some bunker pods in Love Ladies and Barnegat Light. Ship Bottom had some. Beach Haven had some the other day. There's not one specific area where it's like, here's the bait. It's somewhat stretched up and down the island. If you want to come to LBI, you want to snag some, I would suggest poking around a little bit, pulling up the street, checking it out, seeing what you got, move around a little bit. Don't just walk up there with all your gear and plop down unless you know what you're kind of getting involved in. Atomic BBQ, no photos on our trip. I'm not sure who Atomic BBQ is. Maybe if you recently did a trip with me, maybe I don't know. Maybe I do have a trip photo or two, but I'm not sure. I'm not putting the name with the face, so I apologize. Sorry. Fish face. Hey Cap, all the flats that I fished this year with plugs and flies have been skunked. My last one through chips. Not used to ask for help, but I feel jinxed. Yeah, so that's all good, man. Getting skunked is part of the game, and I think reaching out and saying, "Hey, I got skunked. What the hell am I doing wrong, or what the hell is going on?" is take some balls. It definitely takes some some self-confidence to say, "Hey, I've got problems. What can I do to get back in the game?" I don't think there might be something you're doing wrong. Maybe there's not something you're doing wrong. I can tell you, striped bass fishing the flats for me this year was probably the slowest it's been ever. The bluefish kind of made up for it. I mean, there were some good days with some smaller blues. There were some days where I had a couple bass. I can't say I had 10 fish bass days this year. The sod banks, I feel that for some reason these fish are sticking around there much, much more commonly. And they're being really finicky. I noticed if you put like a little crab or shrimp fly down there, they're slurping it, or little clousers. But I was fishing like a 1 ounce bucktail the other day, which normally they pounce all over. And I mean, I was marking these fish like cordwood. I'm bouncing a bucktail off their head and they're not eating. Tried a soft plastic, a little Kettle Creek. Tried a little curly tail grub with just a jig head, just kind of going like a real simple presentation. Wouldn't touch it, but they touched a little grass shrimp fly and little clouser minnows. So I don't know exactly where you're fishing, what you were doing in terms of your presentation, how I could help you. If you want to give me a shout at the shop, feel free to call. I should be at the shop tomorrow for a long period of time. Reach out and say, hey man, I don't need to know your secret spots that you were fishing maybe that were hot last year that you couldn't find fish this year, but I can tell you that if you were fishing that outgoing tide in that warmer water the past couple of weeks, you should have been looking at some bigger bluefish. You should have seen them. If you didn't, I'm going to say you weren't there at the bottom of the tide, or I'm going to say that you might have not been fishing lures that were making enough commotion. To me, it felt like you needed a little bit of a more splash style popper. I had a few trips where I didn't really fish long enough, so I just kind of did like a half-hour look. I didn't want to dedicate too much time to certain spots, and I kind of bobbed when I should have weaved. I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. You can't be everywhere at the same time. So I kind of wanted to get to a couple different spots that were somewhat closer, not so far off the beaten path, in the right time that I wanted to be there for the tide. And I kind of ran out to a couple areas in the bay that took some time to get there. Got there and kind of stumbled up and said, I don't really like this. It's weedy. It's not really as warm as I want it to be, and kind of spent a little bit of time when I should have spent more time because I ended up leaving and some friends showed up and said, oh, dude, sunset was awesome. But before you know it, I was already in 3 other spots at sunset. And luckily, I found fish some of those times, but some of those times I left a spot that ended up turning on after I left and only found that out in hindsight from reports from friends. So the reason why I mentioned that, fish face, is because you may have been at the right spot. You may have been doing the right thing, but you might have been a half hour early. You might have been a half hour late. There's things like that in fishing that can sometimes be frustrating and can sometimes be very, very rewarding. I know, I want to say it was 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I had a friend fishing in a spot. I was there. I caught a few fish. I texted him and said, hey, man, there's some fish here. Get out here. He showed up. He caught a couple fish. He kind of missed the good morning bite, but he caught some fish. He got there. He had some things going on. He needed to get back to land, so he left, said, hey, good luck. And literally right when he left, the current slacked up, and it was fish on. Boom, 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 boom. It was almost every cast. Schoolie stripers. Boom, boom, boom. If it wasn't a schoolie striper, it was a bluefish in the 2 to 4, maybe even 5 to 6 pound range. Almost every cast. I'd say probably 6 to 8 casts, or 6 to 8 fish in every 10 casts. And it was like that for a half hour, 45 minutes. I end up letting him know. He ends up bailing out on his to-do list that he had to do, comes back out and shows up and catches 1 or 2 fish, and literally the bite dies. It was 100% tide dependent. He was there literally at both ends, but missed that middle section that was prime. That could have happened to you multiple times. I don't know. But definitely knowing certain temperatures, knowing certain areas, knowing certain lures, knowing what these fish are looking for. I mean, are these fish looking for big bunkers? Or are they already keyed in on that spearing? Because there are spearing pushing around right now. There's lots of bunker around as well. So bunker's obviously big, spearing's obviously small, and there's obviously lots of other forage, whether it's the grass shrimp that are on the docks, in the grass flats, and the sod banks. I know I was just clamming yesterday. I actually found a bunch of softy crabs, and it's not the new moon right now. I don't really know much about crabs, but new moon's the 20th, something like that, and full moon was just a few days back. I found a bunch. I actually stabbed them, unfortunately, with my clam rake as I was kind of raking along and picked it up, and there's a blue claw in there. I don't want to call them softies. I guess tinbacks are somewhat of a, not a shedder, but just shedded. I think they're somewhat classified as a tinback. Just starting to get a crustiness on them, but still somewhat soft. So maybe they just shed on that moon, whatever it was, a week back. Maybe not. That's my assumption. But it was cool to see the abundance of those crabs, and I think that those flounder are in the flats eating those crabs. I'm sure the striped bass are eating those shedders, and I'm sure there's some weak fish eating those shedders. So there's definitely a lot of different forage around for these fish to be eating. D. Ross says giveaway. Yeah, maybe we could do a giveaway. I'll put that on my list here. We'll figure something out just for you. We'll throw a giveaway out there. BSTOUNE, last week before full moon, I fished the bay and did very well. Since then, last 4 days, nothing. Will the bass come back around or start to head off in the ocean? So the back bay is definitely getting very warm. I personally feel a lot of those fish are going to be moving on. However, every summer, July and August, warmest months we have, even into September, I catch striped bass in the bay. So I'm not going to say they're going to be gone and that's it, but the majority will leave. But there will be some that stay, the more resident fish, the smaller schoolies. They stay in the deeper channels, and I tend to fish some of the deeper spots in the bay. Find some holes, find some sloughs, find some of those main channels, fish them in the low light conditions, early morning or in the evening, even at night. Fish the bridges at night, fish the docks at night. You'll catch striped bass all summer long. I'll guarantee that. But definitely the more, say, sizable, say, medium fish, let's say 30-inch, 32-inch and up, most of those fish are going to move on and do their thing. But there are some of those that live around here. So Mike says, I broke my Tsunami shield off the surf with a 39-inch, 35-inch this week. Love the reel, but the bail doesn't always close. So if you just got that reel, man, you got problems with it, bring it in. I would love to take a look at it. We definitely want to see it, and I would love to push that reel in the direction of our Tsunami rep and see what they do. Might give you a new one, might be able to fix it. I can definitely say that I've heard of Tsunami shield bail issues before. I've definitely heard of very, very quick turnaround customer service, which is great. I can't guarantee anything, but all I can say is bring me the reel, and we'll do the best we can. Get you back rolling. So Will Kinsella says, have you ever heard of plug baits? Yeah, I've heard of them. To me, gulp is phenomenal. That's what I fish when I'm fluking. Gulp's awesome. Gulp's biodegradable. Gulp is impregnated with scent. The baits are, in my opinion, there's no competition for gulp. They outfish live baits sometimes, but I also love to fish live baits, whether it's mullet, whether it's peanut bunker, whether it's snapper blues, spot, live bait and fluke. Just it's candy for them. They can't deny it. I also like to fish squid strips and mackerel strips. I'm not the biggest fluke fisherman. More so, I key in on those, and I kind of do my focusing on fluke. Once striped bass is gone, I just can't see turning away a phenomenal striped bass a couple weeks in prime time fishing to go flounder pounding. It's just not my style. I know there's lots of guys that love catching flounder, lots of guys that want nothing to do with striped bass. They call them striped catfish, saltwater catfish. To each his own. Personally, fluke is not really my favorite fish to target, but I do that more so in July, August, and September. Personally, I love August, September, fishing more of the deep water, wrecks, fishing the ocean, fishing the inlet, fishing bigger baits. I really don't like fishing 3 to 5 foot of water with a bucktail where I can see it and I basically hook myself in the nose every time I set the hook. So to answer your question, plug baits, I know very little about them, but I really want nothing to do with them personally. If I do fish artificials, I'm a major fan of jig strips from Fat Cow. I tip almost all my bucktails for striped bass with them. It's a silicone-based strip, and I also use them for fluke. There's a little curly tail, a little 3.5 inch that's great. You can put it on a hook, and it doesn't really take up much gap. It's not really fat and chubby, say like a regular curly tail would, which takes up the gap of the hook. So what happens is when you put a strip on, like a jig strip, you can put it on, slide up the hook. One of my favorite hooks is the 3400BN from Mustad. That's a new style, new hook specifically made for fishing gulp baits. It's a bait holder style hook, but it's not offset, so it's in line. It's a J hook, and it has a turned back eye, so you can double loop it onto a dropper loop, or you can snell it very, very easily. That hook is awesome. What I like to do is slide up the jig strip. This way it's up and out of the way. You still have the gap on the hook, so you can still put a piece of bait on there, whether it's something meaty or maybe it's an artificial. Major fan of those hooks. Major fan of the jig strips. Our Hoy says, just grabbed the Slammer 3, headed down Saturday. You guys open a spool, some braid. Absolutely, we're open. Absolutely, our line machines are cranking every day. I think we're probably spooling like record amounts of line. Definitely drop them off. Definitely stop in. We could probably do them on the spot. If we're busy, you might have to wait a little bit. But sooner you get in, sooner you can hit it. It says you're ready for the surf. What braid do I recommend? I personally recommend Cortland Master Braid. It's a great quality product. It's a great price. And it's very, very good performance. If you wanted to see a little bit of not really a sales pitch, but a little bit of a detailed product knowledge-based video, check out our YouTube. Brooks from Cortland Line was on live with me last time, maybe it was 2 sessions ago, and I shared that in the archive. You'll see it on there. I want to say it was episode 10 or 11. I'm kind of losing count. But definitely check that out. I fish all Master Braid. One, I like to support Cortland. They're a small company out of New York. They make a quality product, and I think they're great. I've had bad issues with some of the bigger names out there. I personally won't touch some popular braids with a 10-foot stick. Some guys love them. If you love whatever you're fishing, you've got no problems. You've had nothing but good success and results. Stick with it. Don't fish a line just because I fish it. Change braids if you don't like them. But if you like something, you like the characteristics, you like how it fishes, maybe you had good success with it, stick with it. To each his own. That's why there's 10 different flavors of ice cream, and that's why there's 10 different flavors of line. Personally, I fish Master Braid. Before Master Braid, I was a big fan of Invisibraid. Spider Wire Invisibraid's a great line as well. So Miles, dude, Jim sent me a photo of a couple nice bluefish. Congrats, bro. So thanks for the report. I see you say caught a couple blues today in the surf with Jim. Tips for night fishing. Yeah, man. Get out there and fish your heart out. Find a spot with water. Maybe you saw some spots with some good water today while you were fishing before dark. Maybe the exact spot you caught fish was a bowl of water. Maybe it was a slough. Maybe it was some kind of feature there that you thought looked good. Maybe that's what the fish thought was good as well, and the two came together, you and the fish. I'd fish that out at night. I personally would chunk bunker, and I'd fish a bigger hook, match the hook to the bait or the bait to the hook, stake it out, put a couple hours in. I think you might be rewarded with a nice fish. Beast Stoune. Can I bait fish a bunker in the bay off the dock? What's the best rig? You can bait fish off the dock in the bay. You'll probably catch bluefish doing that. The best rig, in my opinion, is a high-low. You can fish a longer style, like fish finder slide. Personally, I like using a shorter leader on the fish finder so it doesn't cast and helicopter, kind of all wonky. But I was just using a high-low rig. High-lows cast very well. Also, when a fish picks it up, if you fish a smaller chunk of bait, they get the hook right away. Right now, if you fish a really big piece of bait, let's say half of a bunker, these bluefish are just going to kind of nibble in the back of it, almost like a crab, and just kind of chew it down to you're left with just a bare bones, head, and you're going to be wondering what's going on. So I would fish the meatier sections of the bait, and I'd fish a smaller chunk of bait. When I'm saying smaller, like size of a quarter, maybe a $50 at biggest. I dropped that suggestion to a couple customers, and almost every single one of those guys that scaled down and went with like a 7.0 or 8.0 hook and matching that bait to that hook, about a quarter size chunk, came back to me and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. One of them had an over 50-pound fish. Next day, or day before that, he had like a 30-pound fish. He was like lined up like 3-4 days in a row. So not saying I'm this excellent surf chunker. It's just, it's something that goes without saying for me. To me, it's common knowledge, but maybe to everyone else it's not. But you always, always, always want to pick a bait chunk or piece to your hook. Or if you say, I want to fish a big bait, you have to match that hook to that bait. So for tuna fishing, for example, tuna are big creatures. Sometimes you're putting a lot of heat on them. Sometimes their mouths are open, they're slurping just about anything that's in front of them. Sometimes they want to find some really, really small baits. So sometimes you cut, say, a small chunk of sardines. Sometimes it's a small piece of, maybe it's a butterfish. Maybe it's a big piece of mackerel or whole mackerel. Maybe it's a small little peanut bunker. You never know. So how do you target a massive fish with all these different baits? And that goes to what I said before, is you have to match that hook to that bait. Now that's within reason. Obviously you want a thick gauge based on your tackle you're using for your, the gauge of the hook should match, the strength should match the drag you're fishing, the tackle you're fishing, and also the fish that you're pulling on. So that being said, you want to use sometimes as small as a 3 or 4.0 stout gauged hook for some of these bigger tuna and small baits. With that being said, a lot of people like to fish 9.0, 10.0 hooks, sometimes even 12.0 hooks for striped bass, and then they put a really small piece of bait on a massive hook, and it looks kind of wonky. That same thing goes where guys will fish a whole bunker and a very small hook, and it doesn't always work that well unless you're live bait fishing. Yeah, you want to use a little smaller hook and kind of feed it to the fish, but it's not the easiest off the beach. It's a little difficult. So personal opinion, if you're asking me what size you should chunk with, chunk your baits about the size of a quarter, about a $50, and match that bait up with a 7.0, 8.0 hook. Short leader, about 6 to 8 inches long. Match your weight with what you're currently, faced with in terms of conditions. I like to fish an 80-pound braid mainline. I like to use 80-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament leader material, and that would be kind of my suggestion. If you're somebody who likes to stake out and bait and weight, I'd suggest using an octopus circle hook. If you're someone who likes to fish with the rod in their hand, or if you would kind of want to hold it and walk it down if it's rough, I would suggest fishing a J hook. Hopefully that helps. Fish finder, maybe. Yes, you could definitely use a fish finder. Some guys use egg sinkers, which are somewhat uncommon on the beach. It's something I kind of like to do, is cast out and hold the rod and slowly stay tight with it. Slowly catch the belly up as that bait rolls down the beach. Crank it up, flip it back out up there, and kind of roll it down. Kind of work different areas, and you're not really staked up and sit in one spot. Maybe I have ADD. Maybe I can't, stay put and stay focused on one spot. But normally when I chunk, that's what I do. I don't really hunker down and fish a massive weight and say, here's where I want to be. It's one of the reasons why I do a lot of plug fishing. I like to cast and retrieve. I like to walk around. I like to cover ground. I like to kind of give 5 casts here, 5 casts there. Sometimes I'll change up a few different lures, roam around and see what I can find. Will says, the Penn Battle 3 going to be better than the Shimano SSVi or Diafuego or BG. So I have the Penn Battle 3. I've been fishing for a while. I can't say any really good things, really bad things. I've got nothing that stands out as bad, so that's kind of good. I really don't know all the features. I'm not allowed to take the reel apart when I get it. I don't really know the whole list of features. They just sent me the reel and said, fish it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Catching a lot of stripers on it, catching a lot of bluefish on it, and hopefully looking to catch a bunch of fluke on it this summer as well. As far as the specifics in a Fuego or in a BG or in a Spheros, you can easily look up the spec charts and see all the specifications. I really don't have something like that from the factory on the Battle 3. My assumption is they're basically going to take reels from its predecessors and kind of blend them together and kind of add a couple layers on, or a little, say, little whipped cream, maybe a little cherry on top, to kind of create that demand of why someone might want a new series or improve upon something. Maybe they improve upon the line roller. Maybe they improve upon some bearings. Maybe they improve upon some of the gearing. Maybe they in a reverse. I'm trying to think if I know of any specific problems that the Battles have other than those, and I can't say I do. Is there any correlation with catching blues and not catching bass and vice versa in the surf? My opinion, bluefish kind of come and go. They roam around a lot. They roam around a lot more than striped bass. That's my opinion. Yes, if there's structure, yes, if there's something holding there, if there's bait, they might hang around. But if you take a look at some area where there are fish, case in point today, the inlet, the Barnegat Inlet had outgoing tide in the morning, nice warm waters flowing out, lots of spearing coming out of the bay. Bluefish kind of showed up as that tide slacked off. They weren't really in the thick of the tide. During the thick of the tide, they were down low, just kind of hanging out. Now, flip-flop that. During the thick of the tide is when I was catching all my striped bass. When it slowed up, the striped bass slowed up, but the bluefish took over. Now, was that because the striped bass were out-competed because of the more aggressive bluefish? That's up for debate. But in my opinion, the striped bass are going to roam that surf and kind of hunker down in certain areas that they like a little bit more than, say, a bluefish. What I mean by that is if there's a slough or there's a cut or there's some forage, if there's maybe some sand crabs. Tip, a couple fish I filleted recently were loaded with sand crabs. I think I filleted 3 striped bass. They were all like in the low 30-inch range recently. In the past 2 weeks, I'd say I probably killed 3 fish. Customers wanted to take a fish home, and we're releasing a lot of bigger fish, so was happy to keep an eater-sized fish in the 30-inch range. Every single one of them had well over 5 or 6 crabs. One of them must have had a dozen sand crabs. One of them had a butterfish. And another one had some small bait fish, which I thought were spearing or some sort of minnow. But that being said, there's a lot of striped bass roaming the beach this year more than ever. Why, I don't know. If you know, great. Maybe it's the replenishment's finally becoming more nutrient rich. That's one of my assumptions. And finally, the sand crabs are starting to inhabit these areas once again. For a number of years after replenishments, lots of the beaches were void of any life. No sand crabs, nothing really growing around. There's starting to be some rocks that are starting to show up, little piles here and there. Don't want to call them jetties, but a couple little piles. And just that little bit of life and that little bit of moss, a little bit of mussels growing, be amazed. That's kind of the beginnings of the whole food chain. So hopefully that kind of answers a little bit of that question. It's not really right to the point, but it's sort of. Major Tom says, how do you think the bass schools will be? I'd say the bass schools are pretty good. I'm not going to say there was big piles of them here on LBI, here on the Central Jersey coast, but I know more so in Monmouth County, they had big schools of fish blasting on top, which is great to see. For me, though, it's 30, 40 miles kind of out of my inlet. I just really don't want to go burn gas for no reason when I can catch fish close by. Are heads better than flanks and tails? Personally, I like the tail piece. I trim off the actual tail fin, and I like to chunk that tail piece kind of from the body cavity to the tail. I personally feel that's the best bait on the bunker. Some people feel the head is. Personally, I fish the head last. If I am, say, going to the beach chunking, I might fish 4 or 5 baits if I'm going to go out, say, for an hour or so. I fish all the tail pieces. Then I fish that middle section with the belly cavity cut off. I cut that cavity off and then chop the head and use the head last. Always, 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 if you are fishing head, leave some meat back there. Don't chop that head right at the gills. You're basically just throwing out there some bone. Leaving some meat on the bone. Give a little blood. It helps out. Just my 2 cents. But hopefully that helps you. So how does the weather affect tuna fishing? So obviously the weather is going to affect the anglers of getting out there. In terms of weather, how does it affect the water? Definitely eddies move. Water pushes in, water pushes out. I'm not a weather expert or oceanographer that knows much about the eddies and all that, but I know the earth is spinning. That's what creates a lot of these currents. And getting more into the oceanography thing, these currents create little eddies that spin off and kind of bring filaments of water in different areas. That being said, those nutrient-rich and those productive sections of water move around. Sometimes storms move them more, in different areas, different spots. I was asked today by someone in the store, fishing for bluefin inshore, midshore has been so good. Should I gear up and go in the next weather window, or should I wait it out until the reports get good again? So to me, it was a no-brainer. It was like, come on, man. Why would you even ask that? It's the beginning of the season. These fish just got rolling. I mean, it's been on fire here for about a week. Why would you wait on the next window to then wait for someone else to give you a report to say, hey, you just missed out? That's basically what that report's telling you. Hey, you should have been there. So rather than say, hey, let me chase yesterday's report, why not get back out there? It might be slow. Things might be scattered. But I bet you people will be out there hunting. I bet you people will catch fish this weekend when the weather lays down. Going out fishing expecting to have tuna jumping in the boat every trip is somewhat a pipe dream. It happens, but you got to put your time in. I mean, going out saying, I'm not fishing the next weather window because I didn't hear any reports, to me is somewhat hogwash. It's maybe a little bit pompous too. You got to spend some money on gas. You got to spend some time. You got to have some dedication. Just gear your stuff up. If you can go, get a crew, go, fish, and you'll probably be rewarded. I mean, these fish will be here all of June, normally all of July, and all of August. Now's the time to fish. If you got your gear ready to go, I suggest going. I don't think there's a reason to sit back and wait and say, I'm going to wait for the next lineup of reports so I can chase them the next go-around. You'll probably be a day late and $1 short. Just my 2 cents. Dominic asks how I like the Penn Slammer. I think the Penn Slammer is a great reel. If you're looking for a reel that's kind of a classic Penn build, and when I say classic Penn build, it's nothing special. It's really bare bones. Obviously, it's a reel. It's about $300 or more, so it's not really bare bones. But when I say bare bones, it doesn't have any crazy oscillation system. Some Shimano reels have what's known as a worm drive oscillation. To me, there's a lot going on there. There's some reels that have a kind of two-geared or geared down oscillation system that slows things down. Some reels have disc drags that are underneath the spool. Slammer would be one of those. You're basically getting, just so you're aware, a Slammer series is a beefed up SSVi. It's got beefed up gears and it's got a beefed up drag. Other than that, I believe they're almost the exact same reel. They're very easy to work on, very easy to maintain, very durable. I'm not going to say they're most high performance. They're not going to be the lightest reel. They're not going to be the smoothest reel. Not going to be on paper as being this, that, the other thing in terms of gear ratio, drag ratings, yada, yada, yada. To me, it's all hogwash. I'm looking for a reel that's going to be a workhorse that I can buy. It's an investment. I'm going out. I'm getting it wet. I'm catching fish on it. And guess what? All reels break. How the hell am I going to fix it? Well, SSVs, slammers, no problem. I think just about anybody that's got a little bit of mechanical skills can take a handle off, take a couple screws out, pop the side cover, pull the gear out and say, looky, looky, this is the inside of my reel. Let's see what I can do here. Clean it out, grease it up. You got to take the spool off and get in the drag. Very simple. You got to take the shaft out. You got to take the rotor off and get in the anti-reverse system. Somewhat simple. You got to clean the bail out, put a new spring in there. Maybe it's a new line roller, what have you. It's very, very simple. You start taking a look at some of these higher end reels, some of these Shimanos. It's a totally different story. Is there anything wrong with it? No. I mean, they're great reels. Is there a reason why they use those worm gear oscillation systems? Yes. They want to give you a much smoother reel. They want to give you much more perfect line lay. They're just trying to refine some things. To me, the Penn Z series did fine. It worked for many, many years. Just today, a young angler walked in the shop with 2 of them and said, hey, I need a drag knob for this, and I need a screw for this, for 2 different reels. These are my grandfathers. They worked for 20, 30 years, and they're still working now. To me, that says something. That's how I feel about a lot of Penn reels. Battle, not in that category. Fierce, not in that category. Pursuit, not in that category. To me, every one of those reels is 100% a fluger. For anybody who doesn't know who Fluger is, Pure Fishing, who's the parent company who owns Penn. This was years and years back. Before they went into China, they were bought out by, Penn was bought out by Pure Fishing. At the time, Pure Fishing, excuse me, at the time, Pure Fishing was owned, Pure Fishing owned Fluger. Rather than redesigning reels and saying, hey, here's a new reel from Penn, they went to Fluger's facility, they slapped the label on it and said, this is a Penn reel. Anybody at Penn who contradicts that, stick it, because that's what happened. I know what happened. All those reels that came out of there were all Flugers. They were Fluger by design. I forget the model Fluger, but it's basically the exact same thing. To me, a Penn reel is not a battle. A Penn reel is not a Sargus. A Penn reel is not a Fierce. It's not a Pursuit. All those reels are okay. They're right at their price points, but they're not true Penn reels. An SSV, a Spin Fisher series, is a tried and true Penn reel. Designed in Philadelphia, built in Philadelphia for many years, and unfortunately not built in Philadelphia anymore. But it would be great if the new owners would bring things back to Philadelphia. I don't want the cat out of the bag, but I hear there's some things going on in the Philadelphia facility. I hear they're ramping up production on some new things. Not saying it's a new reel, but there's a possibility there's some older reels that might be coming back. What brand they're going to be under and exactly what they're going to be making is still, we'll say, in the bag. But the cat might be out of the bag soon. There is supposedly action at the factory. Man, my throat's killing me. Sorry. So I was hooting and hollering the other day, yelling between boats. We were catching fish and just all stoked up, and I kind of lost my voice. One of the reasons I didn't jump on the other night, I just sounded like a raspy kind of mess. So sorry about that. And right now my throat's kind of getting back there. So I apologize. To answer some questions, how do I like the slammer? Kind of line that out there. The line lay on the old Battle was awful, but I might buy the Battle 3 high speed and the drag cap. Power handle look cool. Major suggestion, check out the SSV, check out the Slammer. To me, they're great reels. If you can invest the money, I think the Slammer is definitely an awesome reel. I know the 35 and 4500s have been doing a lot of work. I've caught tuna on the 65 and 7500s in testing years ago. Actually caught some really, really big tuna on the 8500 and 9500 now in the Outer Banks. This is going back before the Slammer was released. I want to say it was probably 6 years ago. They were definitely good to me. Awesome drag. Awesome gearing. So, yeah, I don't know much about this Battle 3. It's super new. To be honest with you, I'm not even supposed to talk about it. I'm not even supposed to do anything about it. But I was kind of... I saw some other people that were working for Penn that were doing some promotional stuff, some videos and whatnot. And I saw they posted some stuff. So I said, you know what? If these guys are sharing it, screw it. I'm sharing it too. So that's why I threw it out there. More than likely they'll cut me off, but it is what it is. Could really care less because the amount of work that I give them, what I do for them is more than probably 90% of the people do for them. And I don't really get anything for it. So if you guys would kick me off. It's fine with me. Thoughts on the BG 3500? I've got 4 of them. I fish the shit out of BGs. I think BGs are great. One thing I do not like about BGs is when you fix them, not the easiest. Pop a side cover and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of weird how the it's kind of 2 kind of rails that come down and the main gear doesn't drop out of it like a Penn would. A little confusing, but if you got time to learn a reel, if you're going to fish all BGs, you're going to pop a schematic and kind of get in there and learn a little bit about a reel and how it works and how things go down. It's not rocket science. You can definitely figure it out. So So those are basically all the questions so far. So I appreciate everybody checking in. If you guys do have more questions, feel free to fire them at me. One thing I did want to say is we did, for the COVID-19 kind of thing, this social distancing, local angler reached out and said, hey, man, it'd be really cool if you guys did some shirts for this spring and summer. They were themed around some tuna fishing and themed around the 1 fathom apart, meaning a fathom is 6 feet. It's a unit of measure in the kind of the nautical world. So we made some 1 fathom apart t-shirts. If anybody has seen those yet, awesome. If you haven't, definitely check them out on our website. Maybe I'll throw a post up tomorrow of the shirts, but they're on our website. If you want to get a shirt, it would definitely support us. Originally, the idea was to do them and put the proceeds to something, whether it was a charter fishing outfit, a local company, somebody who was struggling. But once we made them and realized what it was going to cost us, there really wasn't much skin in the game there. And we realized that our business was hurting just as much as a lot of these other businesses. So not really to be greedy about it, but I thought that I would love to help somebody else, but we needed to help just as much. We've been around for 60 years, and I'll be straight up and honest with you. About 2 months ago, it was a real eye-opening experience saying, will we be actually around next week or tomorrow or next month? So fortunately, that tide has turned. Thanks to every one of the followers, thanks to every one of our customers, now, in the past, in the future. We appreciate all your support. We've had a ton of support from all of the employees, had a ton of support from the local community, local anglers, people coming in buying gift certificates saying, hey, I don't need anything, but I know I will. Let me drop $50 and give you guys some cash, which helped out a lot. So I appreciate that. Also, a big shout out to some of our key vendors for saying, hey, we've been doing business with us for 60 years. You don't need to pay us right now. You can hang tight and you can pay us, when the time's right. So really, really respect that. And because of that, that's why I'll support certain brands over another. People call up all the time and say, hey, we're a new company. We want to do business with you. They reach out and say, hey, you should buy this new reel. We're a great company. Or buy our clothing. We're awesome. You really know who the good guys and who the bad guys are, who the greedy ones are, and who the passionate, true people are in the industry when you kind of run into these tight times. The companies that lived through the recession, lived through some of these different times of fisheries when fisheries are up and down, you really find out who's tried and true. There's lots of people that kind of open their doors and pop off when fishing's great. They get kind of trendy and, okay, this is real trendy, let's jump into this, and that's real trendy, let's jump into that. We've really prided ourselves on being a saltwater tackle shop through and through. Yes, we do a little bit of other stuff, but mainly our business is saltwater fishing tackle, and we are all about sales and service. So if you guys are looking for something, let us know. We'd love to help you out now or in the future. Owen, just a heads up, yes, sightings of kingfish on the beach for sure. They've been around for a week or two, and more recently, they're there. I just got the warning, so I got to log off. Evil Stevel, thanks, buddy. Appreciate all your support. So thanks for checking it out. If you guys want to see this archived or other archives, check out our YouTube page, Fisherman's Headquarters. There's some surf reports on there. I try to hit them some in the mornings, try to keep up with that as much as possible. I'll try to get back on here as soon as possible to share some other information. If you guys have any questions, reach out, send them in. Love to help you guys out. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.